Groovy English Podcast.
Hey there! Welcome back to Groovy English. I'm Chloe.
And I'm Aiden. We share real stories, useful tips, and everyday English to help you grow with confidence.
Wherever you are in your English learning journey, we're glad you're here.
If you're enjoying the podcast, feel free to like, subscribe, or share it with a friend. Let's get started.
Hi friends, it's Sarah. Welcome back to Groovy English. If you've ever felt nervous speaking English during something important, like a job interview, a presentation, or a class discussion, I want you to know, you're not alone. Today, I want to share a very personal story about how I completely failed my first English interview and what that experience taught me. I still remember the day clearly. My hands were sweaty. My heart was racing. And my brain completely blank. It was my first ever job interview in English, and I was not ready. I thought I was ready. But when the moment came, everything I practiced just disappeared. The job was for a part-time assistant at an international company. Nothing too fancy. I was still in school at the time, and I wanted to earn a little money and use my English. I remember getting really excited when I got the email invitation. I even printed out my resume and highlighted key phrases. Motivated learner. Strong communication skills. I practiced answers in front of the mirror. I even wrote a script. I thought, I'm going to crush this. But the moment I sat down for the interview, everything changed. The interviewer smiled and said, "So Sarah, tell me a little bit about yourself." Simple question, right? One I had definitely prepared for. But suddenly, my mind went completely quiet. I opened my mouth, and then closed it again. I tried to remember the sentences I practiced. But they were gone. Instead, I said, I am Sarah. I am study student. Yes. I said study student. Not even, I am a student. Just study student. The interviewer was kind. He nodded and smiled. But I could tell he was waiting for more. And I had nothing. Then came more questions. What are your strengths? Why do you want this job? I understood the questions, but I struggled to answer. My grammar was all over the place. My sentences were short. I used words I wasn't confident with. And worst of all, I kept apologizing. I'm sorry, my English is not good. I'm sorry. I don't know how to say. I'm sorry. After 15 minutes, the interview ended. The interviewer thanked me, but I knew I didn't get the job. And I was right. That night, I cried. I felt ashamed. I kept thinking, why did I fail? I studied so hard. I practiced. I knew what I wanted to say. Why couldn't I say it? But here's the thing. Failing that interview was one of the best things that ever happened to me. Because it taught me what textbooks never could. It taught me that confidence in English doesn't come from just knowing the language. It comes from using it. From getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. After that day, I stopped waiting for perfect grammar. I stopped memorizing full scripts. Instead, I started building real speaking habits. The first thing I did, I made a rule for myself: speak English out loud every single day. Even if it was just to myself. Even if it was only 5 minutes. I'd talk about my day. Today I woke up late. I had coffee. I walked to class. I'd pretend I was in an interview again and ask myself questions. Sarah, tell me about yourself. What are your goals? I answered out loud, again and again. Then I started recording myself. I'd play the recordings back and listen. Yes, it was awkward at first. No one likes hearing their own voice. But it helped. I heard my mistakes. I also heard my progress. I realized something important: I didn't need to speak fast. I didn't need big words. I just needed to speak clearly, calmly, and with confidence. The next thing I did, I started asking friends to practice with me. I found one friend who also wanted to improve her English, and we made a plan. Once a week, we'd meet and talk in English. No switching to our native language. Only English. And no judgment. Some days, we talked about easy topics: what we ate for lunch, what we watched on Netflix. Other days, we pretended to be in interviews and asked each other questions. And slowly, I began to feel more relaxed. My words didn't get stuck in my throat. I stopped apologizing for my English. And best of all, I stopped translating everything in my head. Instead of thinking in my native language first, I tried to think directly in English. And that was a game changer. I also started using English in real situations. One time, a tourist stopped me to ask for directions. And instead of panicking, I smiled and said, "Sure. You just go straight, then turn left at the lights." That was the first time I gave directions in English without freezing. And after that, I started looking for opportunities. I'd go to international cafes and talk to baristas in English. I joined an online language exchange group. I even started posting short voice notes in English on social media. And guess what? A few months later, I applied for another job. This time, I didn't prepare a full script. I just made some notes, key ideas I wanted to share. I practiced answering questions, but I didn't memorize them. I focused on being myself. And during the interview, I smiled. I took my time. And when I made small mistakes, I didn't panic. I just kept going. At the end of the interview, the hiring manager said, "You're very easy to talk to." And a few days later, I got the job. Not because I had perfect English, but because I was confident, clear, and real. So if you've ever failed an English interview, please hear me when I say, it's okay. It doesn't mean you're bad at English. It just means you're still learning. And guess what? So is everyone else. Here's what I learned from failing that interview. 1. Don't memorize. Understand. 2. Don't chase perfection. Chase progress. 3. Don't apologize for your English. Own it. You don't need big words. You don't need a fancy accent. You just need to show up and try. That's how real confidence is built. Looking back now, I'm glad I failed. That failure taught me what no book could. It showed me that confidence isn't something you wait for. It's something you build, through small, brave steps, every single day. So if you're preparing for an English interview now, remember this. Speak out loud every day. Practice with a friend, record yourself. And most importantly, believe that your voice matters. Because it does. And one day soon, someone will ask you in an interview, "Tell me about yourself." And you'll smile and speak with confidence. Not because you're perfect, but because you're prepared. After I passed that second interview and got the job, I felt proud, but honestly, I also felt curious. I wanted to understand why I had improved so much. What changed? It wasn't just about speaking more. It was something deeper. I realized that failing out loud had helped me grow. The first time, I failed quietly. I didn't ask anyone for help. I just blamed myself and kept it all inside. The second time, I shared my fears, asked questions, and got feedback. One of the best things I did was join a community of other English learners. I found an online group where people shared daily practice goals. Some posted recordings. Others typed short paragraphs. We encouraged each other. That made me feel less alone. When I saw others struggling with the same things, forgetting words, freezing during conversations, mispronouncing simple things, I stopped feeling embarrassed. I thought, okay, it's not just me. We're all learning. One woman in the group once wrote, "Today I said kitchen when I meant chicken, and the whole restaurant laughed." We all laughed too, but kindly. It was funny, but also brave. She shared it. She didn't hide. That's something I now live by. English isn't about being correct all the time. It's about being brave enough to try. Over time, I started to build more tools to prepare for interviews, and everyday conversations too. One was called keyword mapping. I'd write down keywords I wanted to use when answering questions, not full sentences. For example, if someone asked, "Tell me about a challenge you faced," I'd jot down, team project, deadline, miscommunication, solution, result. Then I'd tell the story in my own words, using those prompts. This helped me speak more naturally. I wasn't stuck trying to remember exact phrases. I just followed the flow of my ideas. Another tool I used was role play. I asked a friend to pretend to be the interviewer. Sometimes we made it serious. Other times, we made it silly. We laughed a lot, but I still practiced useful answers. And we didn't just do it once. We did it every week for a month. The repetition made a big difference. I didn't feel nervous anymore because I had already practiced 100 mini interviews at home. One time, I even recorded our role play and watched it back. It was awkward, but I learned so much. I saw my body language, how often I said, and when I rushed through my words. After watching the video, I made small goals. Smile more. Pause before answering. Sit tall. Look up. These things don't sound like language skills, but they matter. They make you feel stronger, and look more confident too. Confidence is a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. I also changed how I saw mistakes. Before, a mistake felt like a failure. Now, a mistake is just a sign that I'm learning something new. That mindset changed everything. I started speaking English in public more often. At first, it was just ordering food or asking for directions. But then, I volunteered to give a short presentation at school in English. I was scared, but I survived. And after that, I felt 10 times braver. I even started journaling in English. Not long essays, just a few lines each day. What I did. How I felt. What I wanted to improve. Looking back at my old entries makes me smile. I can see my growth. One entry said, "Today I said something wrong in class, and people laughed. I wanted to disappear." And a few months later, "Today I answered 3 questions in English without panic. I felt strong." That's the thing with language learning. It's not just about vocabulary or grammar. It's about how you feel when you speak. It's about self-trust. There were times I still doubted myself. Once, I was in a meeting and couldn't understand what someone said. I froze. I felt like the old Sarah again. But this time, I took a deep breath and said, "Sorry, could you say that one more time?" And guess what? The other person smiled and repeated it. That was it. No judgment. Just kindness. I realized people are often more understanding than we think. We worry about being judged, but most people just want to communicate. They don't care if your grammar is perfect. They care if you're trying. Later in my job, I started helping new interns who were nervous about speaking English. One girl reminded me of myself. Shy. Smart. Scared to speak. I shared my story with her. And when I told her about my first failed interview, her eyes widened. "You failed too?" she asked. Yes, I laughed. Big time. She laughed with me, and later, she gave a fantastic presentation in English. Helping others made me realize how far I'd come. I wasn't just surviving English anymore. I was using it to lead, connect, and support others. I even started writing short blog posts in English. Just little stories about my language journey. And people started commenting. "Thank you for sharing. I feel the same. This gives me hope." One comment said, "I just failed my first interview today. I was so embarrassed. But reading your story made me feel better. I'll try again." That message stayed with me. It reminded me why I tell these stories. Because someone out there is where I used to be, scared, stuck, and silent. And they need to hear that it's okay to mess up. It's okay to try again. Sometimes, I wonder what would have happened if I had passed that first interview. Maybe I wouldn't have learned all the lessons that came after. I would have gotten the job, yes, but I might still be afraid to speak, still unsure of myself, still thinking, "I'm not good at English." That failure turned out to be the biggest turning point in my journey. It also taught me that fluency doesn't always mean fast or fancy. It means feeling free when you speak. Free to make mistakes, free to pause and think, free to express who you are. That freedom came slowly for me, but now, it's something I protect and treasure. I don't try to sound perfect. I try to sound real. Over time, my interviews got better, not just because of my English, but because I stopped pretending to be someone I wasn't. I learned to say things like, "That's a great question. Let me think for a second." Or, "I don't know the answer yet, but I'd love to learn." These small phrases help me show confidence and humility, something interviewers really respect. And now, I actually enjoy interviews. I treat them like conversations, not tests. Each one is a chance to connect with someone new, to tell my story, and to learn something about myself too. Every time I speak up, even if it's scary, I'm building a stronger, more confident version of myself. If you've failed before, don't worry. You're not behind. You're just getting started. Keep showing up. Keep speaking. Keep learning. One day, like me, you'll look back and say, "That first failure was the best thing that ever happened to me." So if that's you, if you're afraid of speaking, afraid of interviews, afraid of making a mistake, I want you to remember this: failure is not the end. It's the beginning of something bigger. Every confident English speaker you admire today, they've all failed. The difference is, they didn't stop. Neither should you. And that, my friends, is everything I learned from failing my first English interview. Thanks for listening, and keep going. You're doing great.
Your English is shining brighter by the minute. Hit that next video to keep leveling up your skills. Or dive into our other episodes for more secrets to talk like a pro. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share to join the Groovy English crew.